Welcome to Unwind and Wonder podcast. I'm Liza.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Felicity. Today we're jumping into the world of how to unpack your fears.
So grab your cup of coffee, your matcha green tea latte, your almond milk, your chai, and let's unwind and wonder together.
Today we're talking about fear. Fear is a primal instinct ingrained in our being as a survival mechanism. Back in the day, fear kept our ancestors sharp, helping them evade predators and protect their loved ones. But in today's fast-paced world, fear wears many hats. In the knot in our stomach before a big presentation, the sleepless nights spent worrying about the future, and the uneasy that creeps in when we're stepping out of our comfort zone. Researcher Dr. Brené Brown said that fear can serve as a catalyst for growth and resilience, prompting individuals to confront vulnerabilities and develop coping strategies. Dr. Carl Rogers, a psychologist, said excessive fear can lead to defensive behaviors and avoidance of challenges, hindering personal growth and development. Today, we are fearlessly diving into the world of fear with our guest, Keisha.
Yay!
And so we know like fear, it could be good and bad sometimes, right?
It can indeed. So I want to start off by saying something about fear because I'm a huge Beyonce fan, and in a lot of her music, yes. In a lot of her music, she talks about fear, and she has this one line that she'll do in different songs in different ways, but it's the same message. She'll say something like, "None of my fears can go where I'm headed," and she's
Beautiful.
right, yes. So she's like externalizing it, like fears, yeah, they're real, they're here, but they're not coming with me. Like they can't. So I just love that way to think about it.
Acknowledging where the fear is coming from, it allows us to have actually control over it. It doesn't mean that it's going to go away. There's always something to be fearful of, but you're not giving it the power to stop you from moving on and to achieving the things that you would like to focus on, right?
My issue with fear is that sometimes, how do you really know that you're like when I think of fear, I think of afraid. And sometimes I wonder, like, how often do I know that fear is what's holding me back? Like, how do I know that I'm afraid and that's what's holding me back? Because sometimes there's a lot of things that people want to achieve. Like, we want to do these things and we say, oh, I want to, I'm just giving an example, like get my driver's license, or I want to get this certification. But then we kind of just somehow put excuses on top of them. Like we just say, oh, just not today, or, oh, I'll start next week, or, oh, next year. And it's like, how do we start unpacking that and realizing what we're doing is just pushing the goalposts? All we're doing is, oh, we'll start today, but then it's like, no, later and later and later, and we don't achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve.
I think one of the first ways to really understanding why it's preventing you from moving forward. I don't know if fear will be the first thing that comes into mind, but also what is stopping me? Maybe I'm not actually motivated internally to approach to do those things. Maybe it's an external factor. Maybe someone else wants for me to do those things, but I'm really no motivated. Like I have absolutely no interest in doing those things. I think fear takes a different phase when we actually internally, intrinsically want to do something. How do we know if it's fear that's holding me back and not achieving my goals? I think it has to start with if it's something that I really want to do, or is it something that someone else wants for me to do? I think that will be the first place to start.
Well, I mean, that's my fear too, is actually getting on planes. But Liza knows I will travel.
Mm-hmm.
No,
so how do you do it?
I mean, for me, I think a little bit exposure therapy. The more time I do it, I feel more comfortable. But I think it's really important to understand, like, what's more important to me in the moment. For me to have that experience, or let my fear stop me from having that experience. So I think every time I get on a plane, trust me, I'm sweating, I'm like praying. But for me, it's important to get past that fear to have an amazing adventure.
Exposure therapy, I definitely heard of that one before too. It is controversial, right? Because some people, yeah.
Really? No, but I mean,
if it's something really impactful, you will not want to.
Oh no, I mean, I think it has to be in a safe environment because I mean,
Yeah.
Liza knows the part of the reason I'm here because this is a fear for me to be on this podcast. Yeah, I've
Keisha.
always, yeah. So I mean, I've always public speaking, being in these kind of environments is very scary for me. But when Liza told me about it, I said, you know what? I need to face this fear. So I think if it's a safe, controlled environment, it's fine to kind of face it.
I think it's interesting what you said about how you prepared yourself for the plane. So you said like prayer. Did you say prayer? And
I did.
you felt the sweat. You just let the sweat run and kept going. So what did you do to prepare yourself for this? Like to actually get in here, turn the camera on and all that?
You know, I kept on telling myself, honestly, don't let my fear and anxiety control me and just like don't overthink it, right? Because even Liza told me it's like a conversation. I already met Kimberly before. She was really cool. Lovely meeting you, Felicity. So I'm like, you know, just allow myself, don't like kind of don't let my fear control me and like breathe in, breathe out. That helps me a lot.
Yeah, me too. I do the breathing too, because I'll be like having those things, except for me, like, yeah, I sweat a little bit too, like when I'm afraid. And to get myself through it, I pray, I meditate, I breathe. Sometimes I'll be like breathing, I'll be in a very scary situation. I do like a lot of like public speaking, not really a lot of public speaking, but I have to like do meetings and things like that. And sometimes I'll be nervous about those, but I just breathe. So they're tools for us, like to tools that can help us like move through our fear, because fear is a thing. And the more that we start, like the more that we're talking about it, like it's a physical thing, like it's a real, like it makes its presence known. It's, so you have to like work with it.
I think the way I handle fear, and it just depends on the situation, but I don't take it too seriously. And what I mean by that is that I don't like, I know I'm nervous. Like I know, like I'm like, all right, I'll get the same. Like my hands get a little clammy, not too clammy. I'll feel like my heart and my stomach get a little knotted, and I'm like, all right, this feels a little cool, like just ugh. But in my brain, I'm like, it's not that serious. Like, and I don't know if that's like a coping mechanism that I do. Like, for example, like when it comes time to speaking in front of like groups, like anything over 50, I'm like, all right, there's a lot of people in here. Like, these are a lot of people. But it's more of like, Kimberly, what's the worst that'll happen? What's the worst? I might fumble a few words. I may speak a little fast because I know sometimes I'm really nervous, like I'm just going off. But then I'm like, just say it with a smile on your face and it'll be okay. And it has helped me because when I'm talking in front of groups similar to Felicity, like it's just more of like, you know what, just smile, enjoy it, and just it'll be done before you know it. And I try not to let my fears, similar to like, I don't want people to know that I'm nervous because it won't help. Like if people know like, oh, you're nervous, I don't feel like they're going to make it any better. Like, I feel it's just like, all right, now it's awkward.
I love what you said also about like you say, just do it with a smile on your face, like just go in there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have yourself prepared to shine, like, yeah.
I know this is a very old adage, but my brother always reminds me of like fake it until you make it.
Yes.
And that's what Keisha said. It just reminded me of that. Like I'm just gonna go through it until I just get, where I need to go to, and I'm just going to be on that plane. Like I'm very confident, and this is gonna work out. I'm gonna get where I need to go to. Fear has different faces for everyone, right? Like the example that we're given about flying. I've known so many people with fear of flying, but they still do it, and it's on different levels, right? For some people will be, oh yes, when I get on that plane, I'm thinking about it, all this, but I'm able to sit down, maybe watch a movie, maybe bring things with me, distract myself, maybe go to sleep, maybe do something, do meditation, do some exercise. Maybe I could find something that I could distract myself. So there's still a coping mechanism that is still doable for them. Then you have others that are like, okay, I know I need to work on this maybe a couple of days before because I know it's coming and I need to mentally prepare myself, mentally and physically, to endure this, and just think that I'm thinking of my goal. I'm seeing myself at that location, I'm visualizing myself, and that's how they come through. But for some other people, it's very debilitating, right? I'm aware of this fear that I have. I know I need to get to this location. I really want to get to this location. I know I possibly have family at this place that I really want to see them. I haven't seen them in a long time. They really want to see me too. As soon as that thought comes into mind of going on this plane or visualizing yourself inside this tube, you're like, no, this is not for me. This is nothing that you can give me to get me on this plane. I will get on a boat. I will drive if I need to drive to. You will find everything around you not to get on this plane. And for some people who are not experiencing the same, that example, they just cannot comprehend. What do you mean? You still have to get there to see your family. They're waiting for you. And I think that's when it comes difficult for someone to for someone to relate, which makes the fear even more irrational to the person, because now you're judging yourself like it's really not a big deal. Why are the other person seeing it as not seeing it? Maybe it's just me. So I could imagine someone else, not even flying is one thing, but maybe having another fear that is even more debilitating to them. Even this public speaking, for some people, public speaking is not
It's
an
not even
option.
possible. Yeah,
It's
it's
not
not
even
an option.
possible.
Yeah.
And I've seen like for some people like Kim will say like, oh, so she will bring some humor to it. And then people just relax and it's easier for you to get through the speech. But I can see where someone that they're not able to do it. Imagine like maybe your job that it has to do with public speaking every day.
You touched on something really, really powerful. Is fear even rational? Because
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, are these thoughts even like, are they rational or are they irrational? Like, and the fact that you mentioned that, it's like, how many times do we make ourselves so sick, make ourselves so nervous, so scared, and then we do it and we're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. So it's more like,
Mm.
how rational or irrational is fear? Like, for example, skydiving. That's a choice. And Felicity, we have an expert. There's some people that will just get
Oh,
up
wow.
on there and they'll just be like, I'm ready. And then there's people like, I don't know, like this sounds but it's like going to Keisha's point from the beginning, like exposure therapy. Sometimes if we just expose ourselves to, depending on the situation, we may feel more comfortable. But then is it even like, are the fears even rational? Depending on what the fears are.
Educating yourself about them could help with the rational part. So even like for some people, so there's levels to it, like Liza was saying, right? So people at that like very high level, like this thing is actually not even a possibility for me to accomplish because I can't do it. Like I can't do it. Like maybe even like researching about planes, like how many planes have crashed, like just to kind of
Great.
compare it to,
I was
no,
waiting for
you know what I
Liza's
mean?
face.
Like just But I was trying to help with the rational part, like seeing like, okay, so how many have crashed? What are the chances of mine crashing? If
That's
that's
really
what you're
important.
thinking about.
No, but
Yeah.
that's important. I think it's important what everyone's in different ways, that everyone is different, right? So some people,
Mhm.
that research could really help them a lot in getting past that fear. And also, Kimberly, you mentioned this before, support. So I think for a lot of people, having someone around you to understand what that means and be there for you can help a lot as well.
A great
Yeah.
point. Just saying that because I do remember when I was as in my journey of getting over the fear of flying, I have read
Mhm.
some books and some of them, that's exactly what they tell you, right? Some of them talk to you about exposure therapy and they will say to you, well, use with caution because not everyone, you could actually be traumatized more if you're using exposure therapy, if you don't do it with a professional and controlled environment, so on and so forth. But others actually gave it that exactly like read, going to Kimberly's point about being rational and irrational, go into reading and what just Felicity said, like go into reading, like how many crashes happen. The more I read into it, the more I'm like, well, yes. And then I started questioning, oh, but that might have not happened in 10 years, but let it be my plane, the plane that this happened. And then I'm placing myself, which is totally rational, right? It's something that I have no control over, but I'm already placing myself in that situation. But to all of your points, it's definitely, it depends. Everything is different. Not everything is for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a beautiful point because sometimes we think like, well, if you work for that person, why it's not working for me?
I can't help but think like it's important to investigate where our fears come from too. Like and some of them you're afraid of things for a reason, like a really, really good reason. Like and so even I don't want to like I'm gonna make up a story, right, about fear of flying. Like, so someone could have actually had a family member who was in a something wrong on a plane, and now they have like this honest, genuine fear. It may like kind of be irrational in a way because it's like so big and so huge, but it has an origin. Like a lot of times they're real things. And sometimes our fears are there to protect us too. I think a lot of times you started that conversation, Liza, in the beginning, saying like how like fear can be useful. Like you, when you're afraid, you know that it's because something could potentially happen. So it's there as like a it's information for you. It's like there to help you survive on the planet.
Support, I think, definitely is a big thing when it comes to overcoming a lot of things. Not feeling judged, feeling that someone is there, feeling that someone understands you. It helps in a very good way. So if I had someone that I see they're struggling, possibly not making fun of them that they're struggling, like, oh my God, or being dismissive to them. I mean, this, depending on the relationship that you have, but something that someone doesn't feel discouraged and then just closing them, because for someone to disclose fear is something very vulnerable. It puts you in a very vulnerable state, right? You're going to know a little bit more about me that possibly I might not feel comfortable with sharing with other people, but I'm sharing it with you. So I would like for you to just like be like hold it like a precious something, like I'm sharing something about myself to this person. So someone there to support you, I think it goes a long way too.
Whole tool bag of like different things like breathing, prayer, research, talking to other people, maybe someone to go with you, even like a doula for whatever your fear is, right? So yeah, I would say you need tools. You need like a whole big old toolbox with different things in it, different modalities, so that you can overcome anything. I really believe that. And you just need the a tool and a path. And also to look at other people who've done it before you and how they did it. Then you can take it from them and be like, oh, okay, so this is how they did it. Okay. Because there's nothing new under the sun. Everybody's like going through the same thing.
When I think about fear, what I love the most, to everyone's point, is that you're not alone. Like, I feel that we can find the joy in that moment, is that you have someone by your side, and it's more of like, we're going to go together. So even with the flying, like in my brain, I'm like, I'll get on a plane tomorrow. Like, let's just go. Let's just do it. And I think on that plane ride, I mean, I'm the kind of person that will just stare at you. Like, if you really are having a rough time, and Liza know this, I don't know if Felicity knows this or Keisha, but like, I'll just look at you like, are you really worried? Like, I really want to unpack that emotion to understand like where it's coming from. So if we're on a plane, I think I'll just look at Liza like, Liza, are you really scared? Like, I'm right here, but we're both here. So if something happens to you, it's going to happen to me, and nothing's happening to me. Like, nothing. We're going and we're coming back. So I think it's just having that person or, someone next to you on this journey. I think you feel more safe. Like, if there's like a safety net there.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, no, I think both your points are really good as far as having a toolbox. I think it's really important as well. I was thinking what Felicity said earlier as to really trying to be introspective and figure out where the fear is coming from can help a lot too. I know it's hard for a lot of people to do that, but I'm thinking for myself, if I sit with myself and really think why, that can help me a lot as figuring why and what tools I would need to go forward. I think that's really important as well.
To give yourself time, right? Not to push things, to take like baby steps, right? Fear, coming onto the podcast, Keisha, right? It's something, it was a journey. It's like little by little and saying like, okay, I'm good with this. I did something to move me forward, like move that dial to the direction that I want to move it to, and be good to yourself. Like, be kind to yourself. This is something that was really heavy for me, but I did a little bit of at a time. One thing, one goal, one something that you did that if you look back maybe a year ago, you're like, there's no way I would have done that. And look at you now. So celebrating those little steps, I think it really amounts to something when you start looking back. Sometimes we forget to look back and see like everything that we have accomplished. Let me really take in the things that I have done to get myself here that I would have never seen myself back then.
That's pretty
And I'm
powerful.
also when it comes to having that support, right? So sometimes the support, it depends. Like if you have someone who tells you, let's say that I'm having a fear and someone is right there with me being irrational with my same thoughts, right? Like, oh yes, that is something very tough. And we're not moving, we're both seeing it from a very irrational perspective. I don't know what would be a rational fear because everything is valid to anyone. But let's say something that it really have no proof, it has nothing objective. Then that person, that support might keep you unwillingly. Like they might not even know this, but they might keep you in that. It's just like going around in the circle, and you're not coming out of the circle. Whereas if you have someone who's being supportive at the same time and say like, listen, I hear you, but X, Y, and Z, I don't see that happening. But if they do happen, we're going to go through it together. It gives you a little bit of a strength. And I think that's usually what we do with children, right? Let me see under the bed. Let me go into, let me open the
Yeah.
closet door. There's nothing there.
Mhm.
Okay, what else do you want to go and see? Maybe we want, right? So I hear what you're going through, and it sounds like very valid, and it sounds like it's having a very big um, impact on you. Let's go through it together and see how valid those things or how rational those things are, and take that fear away, take that power of that fear away. I think that's ultimately what it is. It's like how to regain that power.
In the beginning, we talked about like there's fear for survival, where it's like fight or flight, like there's that survival fear. And then there's the fear of like the future events, like anxiety things, like we start thinking about the future. So I just want everyone to know that if you like to Liza, when you are in a situation and you feel like, all right, like I'm in danger, like choose the way out. Then there's the other parts like the day in and day outs of, fear, things that just, hold us in our tracks. So I just want to make sure that we know that there is a difference between life and death, where it's like this can really happen. Like to Liza, like I'm walking in a neighborhood that I don't know. It's late at night. Like, there, of course, you're gonna feel a little like I don't live here. This is uneasy. And then
And you
there's our
should feel like that.
absolutely. And then there's those fears of, I don't want to do this or get this because of my fears.
That's a good point. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that because it's real. Some fears are very real. Do not shut your eyes to the signs.
Take away having the support. That's what I think about, because that's not something that I always have in my toolbox or even really consider that I can have like support from others, like someone to go through it with me. And it's really helpful. And it also has to be someone who, to your point, Liza, is like there to help, right? Not someone irrational too. Like you have to be careful like who you're choosing, because if you choose someone who's going to like support your fears, endorse them, then that's not going to get you anywhere. So you want people who are going to be like supportive of you conquering your fears and do it in a nice way.
Things work different from everyone, right? So whatever works for someone, like we mentioned, some of the therapies that we talked about, it might work for some people. Exposure might work for some people. Finding a statistics might work for some people. It's just a matter of finding exactly what works for you. Give yourself time. Do not rush through the process. If you need professional help, go in professional help. Give yourself that room and that space to work it on your own. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate those accomplishments. And no, it's not the same thing. There's not a mold for everyone to overcome something.
I was going to say, I think I got a lot of great takeaways from this. That we're all different people, we're unique, beautiful people, and that fear manifests in different ways, and how we resolve it is also different as well. I can say for myself, going through this podcast, coming out of it, it's a feeling of accomplishment. It's a good feeling I have inside. So thank you for that. I'm also thinking something that Liza said earlier, as far as like, if and your fear stops you from goals that you want for yourself, it helps to kind of put yourself in there. So it helps for me to achieve my goals. And I was thinking, I saw this great documentary last night about Zora Neale Hurston, who I love. And it was a quote from it that her mother told her. She said, always aim for the sun. And I think that's important. If your fear as far as goals, not any situational fears as far as like safety, but for goals, it really is helpful to think about aiming for something bigger than yourself.
I have a new takeaway now based on what you said, Keisha.
So you're going to skip.
Like...
It was my turn, Felicity,
Sorry,
but I'm going to let
wait.
you go. Go ahead, Felicity.
Thank you. So it's what's on the other side of fear. You just described victory. Like, how sweet is that? That's what's on the other side. So that's so cool that you actually have something to look forward to.
Thank you. I love that.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, Kim. It's all you. It's all you.
Is it?
It's
Finally. I do want to say that my biggest takeaway is what something that Liza mentioned in the beginning, like, is your fear or your goals, is it yours? Because sometimes is it actually your goal that you want to unleash that fear? Like, for example, if we're taking it back to like certifications, getting some kind of license, getting something, like, is it for you, or is it because maybe someone else wants that goal for you? And I think I'm just thinking about my own goals. Like, there's a lot of things that kind of hold me back from just achieving my own goals. And I wonder if it's because I'm holding myself back, or it's just something that's not as important to me as it should be, or I just maybe don't find the interest to do it. So that was a good reminder. It's kind of then putting in the effort and not allowing fear to hold me back from achieving those. So I do want to say thank you, because that did help me a lot to remember, like, you know what, it means a lot to you. Like, take your power back, go for it, do it. Like, what's the worst that'll happen? I'll fail another time. And one thing about me failing, just side note, I fail in a lot of things, but then I come out like I learned something from that failure, and then I just continue. And I don't really let the fear piece hold me. Again, I do get the sweaty hands and sweaty feet, but I'm like, you know what, we can do this. So thanks for the reminder. And I'm going to go and do what I need to do. So thanks.
Thank you, Keisha, for being our fabulous guest for the day and joining us and confronting her.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
It was such a pleasure. Welcome you back at any point. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Don't forget to connect with us on social media and your favorite podcast platforms. Click like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification to stay up to date on the latest episodes. And if you enjoyed what you heard, we'd greatly appreciate a 5-star rating. Until next time, we look forward to welcoming you back to another engaging conversation here at Unwind and Wonder.
Thank you for unwinding with us. Remember, stay curious.